Hello, everyone, and welcome to this month's new Moody Talk series. And the emotion of the month this month is anger. And I chose anger as, a start to the year, a great emotion to dig into because I think it's a very misunderstood emotion for us to have. I think a lot of people are afraid to get angry or they hate the feeling of being angry. And I think this has a lot to do with how society has taught us how we should use our emotions and what emotions we should have and which ones to stay away from. So I think anger is a great emotion to start with because I think many people want to understand what it means. Here is our little kitten. This is Raven. You say hi, Raven. Yes, so Raven's going to go down here and we're going to do our talk. Okay, so every month I start off talking about the emotion in the terms of how we feel it and how we recognize that emotion. So I usually jump in. The first Moody Talk is about descriptive words for anger, where they are on your intensity scale, and also how does our body feel anger? What's the sensations that we have when we're feeling anger? Now, these are just small lists. You may feel differently. You may have different words that you use for each emotion, or you may have different words from the ones I use in my examples. But just to give you an example, and also the worksheets will be available on my site, My Moody Monster. So I will put all that stuff up in the notes. Okay, so let's start with descriptive words for anger. So again, you may not feel that you use these words often. What I do suggest is taking the blank worksheet about the descriptive words and the scale to print those out and write your own words that you can think of when you're really angry or you're just mildly angry. What are the words that you use? What are those words that remind you, oh, this emotion is anger? Okay, so I started out with aggravated, rage, annoyed, vengeful, yikes, frustrated, irritated, hostile, furious, bitter, exasperated, grumpy, and then wrath. So these are just some of the words that I had picked out. There's a huge list of them in the DBT world, and these are just some of the ones that I chose. Okay. These ones probably most represent, well, not all represent how I feel because honestly, I don't ever feel like vengeful, but I figured I'd put it up there for people in case that's something that they feel a lot all the time. It's okay. It's, figuring out where it is on your intensity scale and how you're going to cope with that feeling. Okay. So here is the word scale. Okay, so I put grumpy, annoyed, and irritated down, closer to the lower end of the scale, whereas I'm going into midway into the scale with frustrated, bitter, aggravated, and exasperated. And then it starts to move up here where you're going into like 7, 8, hostile, furious, rage, and then all the way up in the top of the intensity scales for me is wrath and vengeful. And happily, I don't get here too often, but they are good words to help me understand where my intensity is. This is the most intense, and this over here is the least intense. Okay. When you do a scale like this, it really does help because if you're sitting somewhere and you feel an emotion and a word pops up into your head about that emotion, you can figure out where it is on your intensity scale. Okay. I think it's a really good practice. I highly recommend that people do. And then finally, I'm going to speak on body sensations when you're angry. So this is how you feel where certain things happen to your body and you can recognize that as actually being anger, that specific emotion. Okay, I know I get my muscles tighten really, really tight and my teeth definitely clamp down. I actually When I get stressed and angry, my jaw clicks when I'm like eating or something, because I can tell then that I've had a stressful or, a kind of angry day, is when my jaw clicks as I eat. Hands clenching. Sometimes, I can clench my hands without even realizing and look down, and they've got like nail prints in them. So that's another way. If if your muscles are tensing and your hands are clenching, you're feeling something very, severe. Face flushed or hot. It's like you get that hot flash in your face because you just got angry with something. Wanting to hit something or break something and not being able to hold back tears. So these are some of the body sensations that you may feel. You may feel others, but again, thinking about what your body does when you start to feel a specific emotion is really helpful with, regulating your emotional responses. Okay. So this month, I'm pretty much, there's a lot to talk about with anger. One of the things I plan on talking about is primary and secondary emotions, which is something that I had spoken about in an earlier Moody Talk. It's really it's a necessary thing that we need to think about, because sometimes people feel one emotion and immediately jump to a second emotion. And I do that a lot with when I'm sad or scared. Those are those primary feelings that maybe in my mind subconsciously, I just don't want to feel those. So I go immediately to anger. And I think it's important for people to understand their primary feeling, and able to recognize that they're moving into their secondary. And I just choose the primary and secondary because anger is where I go a lot of times with that secondary emotion. So we'll be checking facts on, is this emotion I'm feeling actually anger, and is it the correct kind of emotion to be feeling? That's what bunches in with that primary and secondary emotion when you're checking the facts. Sometimes when you check them, you realize, well, I'm angry, but actually I'm scared about something. And so I need to go back and understand that emotion and why I'm feeling it. Just some of the things that we'll be talking about. And please, if you have anything that you'd like to discuss, please put it in the comments, send me a message and let me know you'd be interested in hearing about other coping skills. I'm going to be talking about DBT. If you want to hear more about DBT and their skills, I'm more than happy to discuss those. So I hope you guys have a great rest of your week, and I will see you next week. Bye.